Not now, dude. Not your call, Prophet Muhammad.
For a man who wouldn't even piss on you if you were on fire.
I'm his right-hand bro. He'll piss on me whenever I want.
Fucking baby. For once, take some responsibility for yourself.
If you couldn't see from a mile away that The Boys was always intended to trick the Goyim into watching so many seasons that led up to a bunch of nothing, just pure Goyslop. If you couldn't see that from a mile away, then let me tell you, dear viewer, I have some magic beans to sell you. And don't get it twisted. I have told you guys so many times on this channel to not get too heavily involved with all these shows. Don't get too heavily invested with all of it, because it all just leads to nothing, okay? You should have taken the red pill a long time ago, knowing that movies are in and TV shows are completely out. And a TV show like The Boys is another example of this. Just a whole lot of buildup that leads to a whole lot of nothing. And to all those assholes who thought that the Stranger Things finale was the worst thing they've ever seen, that was such a waste of time, well, let me tell you, dear viewer, you got another thing coming with The Boys Season 5 finale. The overall series finale to end this whole shitfest off. And don't worry, I'm not mincing my words here when I say shitfest, and the overall emphasis on shit, because famous Jewish showrunner Eric Kripke is very well known for having a, well, let's just say ass fetish and shit fetish. We saw that a lot during the season of The Boys and previous seasons, of course. And despite that, I'm also making this sort of emphasis because for today's video, I'm going to be discussing with you guys my overall experience watching this shitfest finale of The Boys Season 5 in 4DX. Yes, you heard that correctly. I actually paid $30 to go see this finale in 4DX at my local Regal Cinema. I got to experience pure Goyslop in 4DX. And you know what? I don't regret a single moment of it, despite my negative feedback for the finale that I'm going to share in this video, and despite knowing that I figured that this finale was going to be a bit lackluster just based on how the episodes were playing out this overall season, and just the fact that the signs were there that this was all going to be a waste of time. Even knowing that this was going to be a waste of time, I still had a lot of fun, and that is what it's all about. Now, before I share with you guys my overall experience with watching The Boys Season 5 finale in 4DX, and let's just say how unique of an experience that was for an hour, I'll also be discussing my general thoughts on the finale itself and how it made me feel, and how, this was just really designed to waste everyone's time. It was made with the Goyim in mind. Before I get into all that fun stuff, it's time for you guys to go ahead and do your due diligence and consider liking and subscribing to the channel, because you're not going to miss out on these certified bangers. You're just not going to want to do that. So please like and subscribe, and also consider commenting during or after you've watched the video, as well as hitting that hype feature that's located somewhere in the description box. Doing any of those things to engage with the video really helps promote this video onto the algorithm, and it helps a relatively small channel like myself get across to the masses. Now that that is all said and done, it is now time to get right into the video. Now, I definitely think it is vital that I share with you guys the 4DX experience, and just the fact that I'm probably one of the few YouTubers that saw this series finale in 4DX. I thought maybe I could give you guys a rather different take on the matter, or just my overall viewing experience with watching it in this sort of format. If you're not familiar with what 4DX is, it's basically an interactive theater experience, or more, it's like a theme park ride, or like a mini theme park ride, essentially, where you have your seats moving while the movie is showing. Especially the seats are moving during certain action set pieces, and there's also fans blowing, and then there's also water that comes out, like little water mist that comes out, and you could actually turn it off. Like, they give you an option on the seats to turn that sort of feature off so you don't get wet during the movie. And it's not like a shit ton of water coming at you, or you're gonna get drenched after watching the movie. It's not like that necessarily. It's just, it's very misty, but all those sort of features are there, with like seats moving, air blowing, and then water mist, of course. It's all there to make the theater experience a lot more immersive. Like, you're actually in the movie itself. You're feeling the things that the characters are feeling in the moment. That's the whole point of 40X. And with The Boys, they use it in a very interesting way. And I'll get into that in just a second. But I want to tell you guys what my theater room was like and the overall energy with that. So my theater room was definitely packed. I actually got in for the second showing because initially there was only one showing. And it was like this for a lot of other theaters across the country, and for each of those theaters they eventually did add another showing because I'm sure Amazon saw this and they thought, okay, let's add another showing so that people get to experience this finale for themselves. Luckily, I got into the second showing, and I got in before even that one got sold out. But yeah, my theater room was completely packed, and there was quite a good amount of different people there. You had your typical chuds and chudettes, and then you had some like good-looking people there, of course, that, you know, are big fans of The Boys. And I actually, on my row, I was sitting at the very top, and I managed to have two guys dressed up as Homelander and Soldier Boy sitting on my row. Like, dude, I couldn't have planned that any better. And what I also couldn't plan better was starting a new streak of sitting next to the Huz at the movies, because I had been off my streak for a while with sitting next to the Huz. But this one, of course, this time around, initially this Huz was going to sit next to me, but then her cuck boyfriend actually wound up switching seats because I think he caught wind of the fact that I am a very dangerous individual, especially with the Huz. And if you know anything about me, especially with this channel and the sort of experiences I've shared with you guys most certainly know that I am very dangerous and a man with a particular set of skills to deal with any kind of Huz for that matter. But of course, all jokes aside, even with that sort of minor setback, it was a pretty positive experience with the overall crowd. The energy was there. Everybody was really getting into all the different action sequences and all the parts that were supposed to be funny. Definitely got a few claps in there, especially once the finale ended. And I'm not really one that claps during a movie or even after a movie is finished. I'm just not a weirdo like that. But no, like the crowd was really getting into it, and I liked the fact that it was a packed house, and the fact that people were they were enjoying themselves. They were enjoying the moment, even though I thought the finale was a bit lackluster for my liking. And the fact that I didn't necessarily get to start a new streak with sitting next to the Huz because of a cuck boyfriend. But hopefully next time I go to a movie as big as, you know, let's say a finale for a TV show or just any other big movie in general, a big blockbuster feature film, hopefully I can start a new and long-lasting streak of sitting next to the Huz and their boyfriend. That totally sucks, okay? You guys are a bunch of cucks out there. And you'll never know it's me sitting next to your Foyd in the cinemas, teaching you a very hard lesson that your girl is going. But nah, all jokes aside, pretty positive experience overall, and I definitely want to get into some of the ways that the 40X was used for this finale, and it was definitely used for a lot of, let's just say, interesting scenes. Or one particular scene that comes to mind is the one scene with O-Father and Ashley, and O-Father getting gifted the ball gag. And believe it or not, when he snaps back the ball gag in that scene, you could actually feel the snap in 40X. Like all of our seats vibrated all at once. And I thought, holy shit, we are actually witnessing, I guess you could call it softcore porn in 40X, or like in a very immersive way. We're basically getting to witness some sexual references in a very immersive manner. Now, you guys tell me, which YouTuber have you heard talk about that particular experience, or getting to witness an experience like that as the one I've described to you? I don't think you can name anyone on this platform other than yours truly. But I honestly feel witnessing something like that, or getting to experience something like that as the one I've described to you in that scene, I feel like that is paving the way for some kinky ass shit in 40X, and I don't know if I like that. But despite feeling that sort of scene in 40X, there were a lot of other cool moments, you know, something that's not really sexually related or some sexual reference here and there, because this show likes to, you know, make its sexual references because it's, you know, written by degenerates. But despite that, there were a lot of great fight sequences for the most part, or like actually getting to experience the fight scenes, or just feeling the punches and the knockbacks here and there, because like, there's a lot of that in this finale. And even at the very beginning when they do the season recap, or just like the recap of The Boys in general, you get to feel the seats vibrate. You know, you feel the knockback of like Homelander punching the shit out of somebody or even lasering someone. You actually do get to feel that in 40X, not necessarily like the heat beams or whatever, the laser, but just like the seats, like as if you're like on a roller coaster. Honestly, that's what it kind of felt like, because the seats actually do kind of go back and forth just a tad bit, but not enough to point where like if you were eating your popcorn or whatever, like it would just spill over the fucking place. No, it's not like that, but it's just enough to like feel some sort of impact or feel the weight of a scene. And I will say, I feel like the 40X was very prevalent in the scene with the Deep and Starlight, because they actually go all over the place and then of course end up at the beach. I thought that scene was pretty cool in 40X, and then of course the scenes with Homelander, you know, flying in and out of places, and then of course the very final fight, which we'll kind of get into that later and how I felt about that overall scene. But just feeling that scene in 40X, that was pretty nice, and especially like when they're all going after Homelander and like Butcher's trying to like grab him with his tentacles and like slam him back on the ground. And then, of course, Ryan comes in to save the day when he nearly escapes and like tries to escape in the most slowest way possible. But like I said, we'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, you feel the weight of like everything in this finale, at least with the fight scenes. And I was pretty surprised that they pulled it off. I thought this was just going to honestly be like a cash grab. And in a way, it still is. But I honestly thought it was worth it. You know, I did think it was worth the $30, you know, to pay for a voucher for snacks. And just to watch this overall lackluster finale in this format, I think it made it that much more worth it, especially for the content for this channel. But yeah, in summary, for the theater experience, pretty much enjoyed it for the most part. However, despite me enjoying the 40X theater experience, I will have to give my honest thoughts on the finale itself and just how the overall story played out, and some of my, you know, somewhat highs and lows, or mainly lows with this, because it's not even that I thought it was like really terrible or anything like that. Like a lot of people are making it out to be like, this is like one of the worst finales of all time or whatever. Like I'm not going to go that far or like say like this is on par with the Game of Thrones season 8 finale. I'm not going to go that far, but I will say this was a rather lackluster finale, and I think that much should be acknowledged. And what should also be acknowledged is the fact that The Boys itself as a show, the way it's been written and the showrunners behind it, it's clearly designed to waste your time. It just is. And season 5 was a major pinnacle to highlight this point. And honestly, the showrunners, especially someone like Eric Kripke, has no one to blame but himself for the overall reception that the show has been getting, and especially with the season finale and how things ended off, especially with how they did Homelander, and just other rubbish character development throughout the season, or just the lack thereof. It was just a lot of time wasted on characters that we really didn't need to waste time on. And I know a lot of people bring up Soldier Boy being a waste of time, just how they utilized him a lot just to put him on ice in episode 7. And I'll be honest, I think Soldier Boy was one of the saving graces for the season. I wish he was involved with the finale, and I kind of see where people are coming from when they say like his utilization was a complete waste of time, and we should have spent more time on other characters that clearly needed to have some things wrapped up with their character arcs and all that good stuff. And just a lot of continuity issues here and there, almost like the writers forgot that a big finale in one episode happened, and then the very next episode, they act like nothing ever happened. And one example of this is Homelander injecting himself with the V1 formula, or the original V1 formula, to make himself powerful and immortal. The episode after that, they hardly acknowledge that, and it's like you can't even tell the difference that Homelander is on V1, or he's like a lot more powerful than he ever was. And it's even an issue with the season finale where he's supposed to be at his prime, he's supposed to be super powered and all that stuff. He's supposed to go scorched earth. You know, I'm sure you heard every other fucking YouTuber on this platform mention the whole scorched earth thing with Homelander, and them absolutely doing fuck all with that. And then building that whole scorched earth premise, especially with the teaser posters for this season finale, like you see right here, like you see all this stuff, all this sort of build up, and like all this anticipation for all these different characters and how things are going to end off. And of course, none of it really pays off in a way that makes sense or in a way that's super meaningful. Like some characters, yeah, they do get a decent resolution, like Huey and Starlight or Annie. Like they get a pretty decent ending, but everyone else, it's just like, I feel like we wasted so much time. We really did. And we spent too much time on sexual references, Eric Kripke's ass fetish, other degenerate bullshit, or like especially the scenes containing blasphemy. And then, of course, playing it off as if it's some sort of satire. Because if you present something like that on screen, like blasphemy, the biggest excuse you'll see is, oh no, this is making a satirical point on evangelical America. or Trump likening himself to Jesus during that one post on Easter. Or actually, I think it was before that. But despite that, it's just a lot of libtard hatred for the right wing and just chuds all over. It's a lot of half-baked shit that really goes nowhere, and it's very mean-spirited in the way it carries out certain messaging here and there. Overall, it's just a lot of sexual deviance writing this material and running this show. I mean, honestly, The Boys has been like this for a while. It's always had this sort of lackluster material that was designed to waste your time, to, basically laugh in your face. That's pretty much what it was made for, and the finale really highlighted that for the most part. Especially with the degenerate shit, and like at the very beginning of the season finale or the episode where they're having that funeral for Frenchie, and if they're reading his will, or Huey's reading his will, and of course it's just constant references to seeing everyone's assholes. I'm not kidding. That's literally what it is. We're still doing pee-pee poo-poo jokes in the Grand 2-6. But to move on from that point, and just to move on to the point of wasting everyone's time and lackluster character development, we get to that scene with Kimiko randomly getting Soldier Boy's powers of like being able to depower any other soup for the matter. But we have a character like Sister Sage, or Sage, who comes into the play because she's had this elaborate plan from the very get-go. That is another half-baked idea where she just wants to see the world burn because she's the smartest bitch on the earth, but everyone pretty much undervalued her talents or underutilized her efforts, and everyone overlooked her. So now she just wants to see the world burn, but then she agrees to help out with the boys to get back at Homelander. And, there's all that bullshit to it. And then it gets to a point where she baits Kimiko into basically depowering her altogether. And Kimiko actually does. She pissed her off. Or Sage pisses Kimiko off by saying that, Frenchie was this, Frenchie was that, you were never this, you were never that, or I can't remember the exact dialogue she says to piss off Kimiko, but the point is, she rage baits Kimiko, and then Kimiko blasts her with the Soldier Boy superpower to depower Sage, and then Sage is now the dumbest person on Earth. She's a dumb bitch, and her idea of escaping everything is going to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios. And dude, that shit to me was so... it was very ironically funny. I was going to say unironically funny, but it's very ironically funny because she literally wanted to go to a Wizarding World to experience some black girl magic. I thought that was pretty funny. And what's also pretty funny is that she gets to go away scot-free, dealing with no consequences whatsoever, because this was a character that, in my opinion, was completely unredeemable. She got a lot of people killed, and she was responsible for setting up the concentration camps for that matter. So, yeah, she loses her powers in the very end, fucks off to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios, and nothing is ever said about her ever again. And to continue on with this point of wasted time and character development, we get to see some characters from Gen V, and I barely know any of these characters because I never watched that garbage show, because I saw from a mile away, or miles away, that show was definitely designed to waste your time. And funny enough, they bring back this one character here and this other character in the previous episode to almost set up this fact that they might be a deadly force to Homelander, especially the black chick who can control people's blood or whatever. They pretty much set that up in the previous episode, but then Annie's like, no, you'll have to go. It's too dangerous. You can't control your powers. She basically tells them to fuck off. And then they come back at the very ending of the episode, and Annie's like, you know what? We're probably going to need your help. But funny enough, in the finale, they do fuck all with these characters, and they actually, are basically told to fuck off to Canada to help other people, as, they're going to go take the fight to Homelander themselves. And you guys, whatever, y'all can do some great shit. Just drive these people to the border, drive them to Canada, get them out of harm's way, because Homelander's going to go scorched earth or whatever. But yeah, I thought that shit was funny. It's like when I saw that for the first time in the cinema, I was like, I shrugged my shoulders, and I was like, fucking stupid. What a waste of time. But yeah, you have those characters who are told to fuck off in a previous episode, bring them back for a few seconds, and then they're like, oh yeah, you know what? Go help out over here. Don't actually help us with the fight with Homelander. I thought that shit was funny. And honestly, if anybody wasted their time with that Gen V show, you fucking deserve to have your time wasted. Let's just be for real. That show was made for the Goyim in mind. But to move on from that, I do want to say that there were a lot of goofy moments in this episode leading up to the final battle at the White House. You have, Homelander just basically dogging on the Deep, because the Deep comes back briefly, even though Homelander had already disbanded the Seven and basically told the Deep to fuck off. But of course, the Deep comes back hoping to help out, and then he refers to O-Father as Bro Hamid. I thought that shit was funny. But no, there was this great scene between the Deep and Homelander telling the Deep that he's always hated the guy and he's just a complete waste of space. Like, I thought that scene was pretty great. And you see this, like, just disappointed look on the Deep's face. Just like everything that's led up to this moment, he just kind of, he's letting in this moment settle that, like, this was all just a waste of time, just like how we're feeling with the boys overall. But no, it's like he's just so distraught that somebody like Homelander, that a guy he's looked up to, or supposedly looked up to, but it's based on fear and just like trying to appease other people. But yeah, I've always liked the Deep as a character. I always thought he was funny, and like, yeah, you could say he's a piece of shit and whatnot, but dude, I think he's probably been one of the highlights of the boys altogether. And his character is honestly a rare exception to how well the satire is in the show, or like he is like able to be used in a way to make some sort of commentary on right-wing culture, or even chud culture for that matter. And a more prominent example of this is the Deep Thoughts with the Deep, that podcast he has on the show with Black Noir. I thought that was pretty funny, and the Deep will forever be the GOAT of the show, despite its many flaws. And granted, I didn't really care for his death or like the way he went out. Like, I understand he had to go out or whatever during the final battle with Starlight. And what I thought was funny about this whole scene is the fact that Starlight takes him to the beach or whatever, and like some are looking at this as like just inconsistent writing, or the writer's not really thinking this through, that the Deep, like, one of his main powers is that like he can control the sea creatures. He's very prominent in the sea, or like swimming around and getting to places pretty fast, and for whatever reason, like, he's swimming very slowly away from the sea creatures because they wanted to kill him after that incident that happened with Black Noir, like flooding the ocean with oil, or like plaguing the ocean with oil or spilled oil, and like it was pinned on the Deep or whatever, and of course every sea creature wanted to go after the Deep for that very reason. But of course, Starlight doesn't know this when she takes him there, and she like blasts him back into the ocean or whatever, and then like she sees him getting torn to shreds by all these different sea creatures. And like, yeah, I saw a lot of people making commentary about that, saying like, that's fucking stupid, why would she take him there? And honestly, I thought that was just a way to like, establish some common ground, that like, she's trying to give him a way out, or like a chance to redeem himself, and of course he doesn't take it. But yeah, granted, like, you could kind of see the vision with that, but at the same time, I could also see where a lot of people are coming from, saying like that wasn't well thought out, and the writers just didn't give a shit about any sort of continuity or anything to do with the characters and their power sets altogether. But speaking of power sets, and not to get too ahead of myself with this review, I want to mention the one scene where you have the parody of Elon Musk come in, one of the world's richest guys that comes into the White House, and he's meeting Homelander for the first time. And of course, they have to make some stupid satirical commentary on Elon Musk and the rest of right-wing culture. This scene where they have this parody of Elon Musk come in, and he wants to discuss with Homelander about white fertility rates, and they have to make it known that Homelander is disgusted with this guy. He doesn't know who he is, or doesn't really care to see this guy, and he's just overall weirded out by him, and he's like, who is this guy? Or like, why do we need him? And of course, they have to show a scene where they fly this fake Elon Musk into space, or Homelander flies him instantly to space, and he makes a joke about, oh, well, this guy always wanted to be an astronaut. And something before that, they say that, he has 17 different children with different baby mamas, of course, because you have to highlight that this is in fact a parody of Elon Musk. And you have to make the point that he cares about white fertility rates, because of course the Jewish showrunner, that being Eric Kripke, gets off on that, and all these other weirdo writers get off on that. But honestly, I think I would have forgiven this scene, or I would have given Kripke some credit here, or his flowers, if he had made the point that Homelander only flies this guy to space, not just because he always wanted to be an astronaut, or he always wanted to travel to space himself, but the fact that Homelander wanted to kill this guy because he ruined Twitter, he ruined social media. I think that would have been a funnier point to make, and it actually would have been a lot more true and accurate, because Elon Musk did ruin Twitter, or X. I still call it Twitter. I don't care. But yeah, Elon Musk has ruined Twitter. That place is a shit fest. It's just filled with like left-wing propaganda on weekends, and your whole timeline is just filled with absolute Cole takes, just Cole posters altogether. It sucks, and I think that would have been a much more funny point if Homelander had killed off this parody of Elon Musk for that reason alone. But somewhat joking on that last point, just making jokes here, folks. But no, I wanted to bring up that scene because the fact that they show that Homelander is capable of flying super fast from Earth to space, and even in the episode prior where Frenchie taps on the side of the wall or whatever, and Homelander instantly hears him because of his super hearing and the fact that he's taken the V1 and he's at his peak excellence as a soup. Well, in this finale, they completely nerfed Homelander in the major fight scene at the White House. I do want to get into that particular scene and just how that whole fight choreography or how the whole fight sequence just played out, because I thought that was rather lackluster and just kind of out of place at times. And not even to mention the other fight scenes that took place. I know I've already mentioned the Deep and Starlight fighting each other, but then you also had O-Father versus Mother's Milk and Huey. And that whole fight scene just plays out very shortly. Like, O-Father, like, he's able to use his powers against them quite a bit, and I actually did get to feel that in 40X. The blowbacks, so to speak, that may not be the best wording to use, but regardless of that, you do get to feel that those intense fight sequences, or somewhat intense. But to get to that part where like MM wraps the ball gag around O-Father's mouth, and O-Father tries to use his powers with the ball gag in his mouth, and then of course it ricochets back in him and explodes his head. I can't really show it here on screen, or I'll have to like show it in black and white, but you get the idea. You have like all those different fight scenes going on while simultaneously having the Homelander versus Butcher, Kimiko, and then eventually Ryan comes into the battle and knocks back Homelander because he's trying to fly away, because Kimiko has Soldier Boy's powers of depowering people, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, or towards the beginning. And of course Homelander doesn't want to lose his power that he has, especially with the V1 that he's injected himself with. But even when this whole fight sequence is playing out, Homelander, for whatever reason, is super slow when he's trying to like fly across the place, or even like in the Oval Office. Like, even when he lunges at Butcher, it's super slow, and you can really see the budget taking a hit in the scene. It's like, where did the budget go? Did it just go to the actors' salaries? Probably. I just answered my own question there. But yeah, you could really tell that this was very low budget fight sequence, especially when Homelander's taken off a couple of times trying to fly off. And because like I mentioned earlier that he flies instantly to space, taking out the fake Elon Musk. And for whatever reason, this scene, when he's trying to get away, he flies super slowly. So that's where you start to see like the inconsistencies and the overall power scaling of each of these characters. Because throughout the many different seasons, like, they've shown you how powerful a lot of these characters are, especially Homelander. And even when he was in this same type of situation, like in season 3, where the boys are working with Soldier Boy to take out Homelander, and Soldier Boy has the power to depower Homelander, and Homelander knows of this, and he actually gets away pretty swiftly for the most part, or like, he doesn't struggle as much as he does even in like this finale that you see here. And there's plenty of other examples to show the kind of power scale that Homelander has, and like how powerful he is in general. Even like prior to him taking the V1, you see at the very first episode where he, you know, ultimately kills A-Train. Like, even when he's chasing A-Train, like, he's super fast and he's using his lasers pretty efficiently for the most part. But in this finale, his laser beam works similarly to like Cyclops laser beam, or like the optic blast, where it just knocks back people, not like cutting through them like Homelander is known to do with his laser beams. And for whatever reason, like, every time he would use his laser beams, it would just knock the people back, or especially Butcher. And for whatever reason, it wouldn't like slice through Kimiko when he would like, you know, use it towards her. And it's like, they've shown plenty of times like Homelander using it against other people, and especially Kimiko at the beginning of the season, where he completely like slices through her and she like flops to the ground. For whatever reason, especially with V1 Homelander, his laser beams doesn't do that. So again, very inconsistent, very underwhelming to see. And on top of that, you have Butcher using his tentacles, and he's able to wrap around Homelander so Homelander doesn't get away. And I'm thinking like, dude, Homelander is fast enough to like dodge all these tentacles. Like he should be able to see that in like real time. So like what are we doing here? Like that's so stupid. And then of course, as those two are attacking Homelander, Homelander does have a chance to get away, but of course he doesn't because he flies super slow again. And then Ryan comes in to save the day to knock him down. And then Homelander's like, "You little shit." You have this whole scene play out, and then eventually they get Homelander down, and then Kamiko has this, she's about to use her powers, but ultimately she's having trouble with it until she has like a little dream sequence of Frenchie coming back into the fray. And I thought this whole sequence was just so dumb, so corny, and Homelander should have just blasted her ass away for just even having this sort of moment, this little dream sequence right here. It was so stupid. And I let out the biggest sigh in the theater room when I saw this for the first time. It just, oh my gosh, just, oh my goyim. But no, once that happens, she finally is able to use the Soldier Boy power of depowering Homelander, and of course, the screen flashes to white, and then Homelander wakes up, and then Butcher wakes up, and then of course, Homelander sees Butcher, and then Homelander tries to use his powers, and then of course he doesn't, because now he is finally depowered, and he is nothing but blood and bone, as the episode is titled. And then Butcher takes advantage of this, and then he beats the shit out of Homelander, and then Homelander goes out in the most oralist way possible, begging for his life to Butcher, saying like, "I'll suck your D word, I'll do anything you want, I'll even eat shit." He says all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, all this build up, all this like, all these cool orful moments with Homelander just to end up like this. And some might say like, "Oh bro, you lack media literacy, that's the whole point." And I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, I understand you have to kill off this character, you have to kill off the big bad, the big villain of it all, but dude, I think there was a better way to handle this. And honestly, I think it's bad enough that the comics gave him a more graceful death, even though that was pretty brutal in of itself. But the way they did this here, just having this ultimate humiliation ritual, because somebody behind the scenes, that being Kripke, gets off on the idea that he's beating Trump. This is used as an allegory for taking out the big old mean fascist Trump. It's just like, dude. And it's even bad enough that like the actor Anthony Starr had to come out and say like he pushed back against like a lot of the Trump allegories and said that Homelander is his own character. We don't need to be doing this shit constantly to make this overall point. I saw a lot of reports like that, and I noticed that Anthony Starr wasn't at the finale premiere, which makes sense in hindsight if you really take a step back and just view this whole finale for what it is. But yeah, it's not all said and done though after Butcher kills Homelander, because everyone meets up for the last time. Everyone, meets up with Butcher, and then of course, Butcher talks to Ryan for a little bit, and then Ryan's like, "I want nothing to do with you. My dad may have been bad, but so are you." And then Ryan kind of fucks off and does his own thing, or he later goes and hangs out with MM and like attends a wedding or whatever. But despite that, Butcher is like, he doesn't have Ryan to have him tag along with, and then he looks to his dog Terror. And he's like, "All right, it's just you and me, buddy." And then, of course, he realizes that Terror dies of old age. And then that's when he kind of goes berserk at the ending and is like, "Nope, I got to take out all Supes. There's always going to be another Homelander. I have to end this all." And then it leads to this whole confrontation with him and Huey. And then, he says to Huey that he's planted the virus into the sprinklers at Vought. And Huey tries to talk him out of it. But of course, Butcher, he's going to try to go through with it. And then it leads into this little fight sequence. And then Butcher has a flash sequence of his younger brother. And because he views Huey in the same light as his brother, he kind of relates to him in that way. And while Butcher shows some hesitancy trying to take out Huey uses this to his advantage to ultimately shoot him. And then Butcher dies. Butcher gets out his last words to Huey, and then there's a funeral sequence right after this, and then it leads into the final shots of each of the characters, and then it ultimately ends the episode with Annie and Huey getting together, and then it establishes that Huey started his own startup business selling tech, and Annie works with him, but it shows that Annie is pregnant with his kid, and they're going to name the kid Robin after his late girlfriend from the very first episode of the first season. And it shows Annie taking off. She's still doing her hero business. She takes off as a pregnant woman. So of course we got to establish that she's still the one running shit. She's the one with the pants. She's still going to be the boss bitch at the end of the day, while Huey has a huge smile on his face as she takes off, which that is the final shot of The Boys season 5. But yeah, that's the season finale of The Boys. pretty lackluster, pretty rushed, and they tried to finish up everything in an hour. You know, all of the writers' mishaps with not actually developing anything meaningful throughout this season. Just, lackluster. I really don't have any other better words other than just lackluster finale, lackluster season, and just lackluster show altogether. Spent too much time with the ass and dick jokes. We spent too much time with political caricatures of things that don't actually exist in the real world, just what libtards fantasize in their head about right-wing politics or even left-wing politics for that matter, and how evil and racist and fascist Donald Trump is. But even though Trump is not even anywhere near close to being right-wing at all, or even like how they imagine him as being this far-right figure, not even close, okay? He's called Taco for a reason. And then the constant use of blasphemy throughout this series, just the unnecessary blasphemy, not even funny. And even when it's used to enhance the plot, if you want to call it that, or even say it in that way, it's just used as a way to say that Homelander thinks of himself as God, because he states many times that he's like the second coming, or he is God himself, which we know that's not true. But it's just simply there because the writers and the showrunner have an absolute disdain for Christ Almighty or Christians in general. They have to make that known every 2 seconds in this show. And even while they're doing that, they completely lose sight of actual character development or focusing too much on characters in order to set up a spin-off series, which I don't even know if anyone's going to be really interested in all that at that point with the show Vought Rising. That's what's going to come after this show, of course. I think it's supposed to come out next year or later this year. I can't remember. Don't really care, to be honest. But the point I'm making here is that this show, it literally became a parody of what it once was. It became a parody of itself, or the thing that it really was trying to make fun of, which was the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just superhero culture in general, or trying to make commentary on that, as well as bringing some real world elements into it, like the first season did a little bit more effectively, even though I thought some of that wasn't as great as some people made it out to be. But you could see over time, this show really lost sight of itself and what it actually was supposed to be, or the points that it was trying to make. It got lost in the sauce, okay? The writers, the showrunners, all these assholes, they really got lost in the sauce just to be absolute degenerates throughout. And in the end, it ultimately cost them. It really did, because most of the fandom has turned their back against the writers, the showrunners. Nobody's really fucking with the boys anymore, or just like how they used to. A lot of people have a lot of gripes with the finale. Not even just that they ultimately hate it, but they, as myself, they ultimately feel very disappointed that it was lackluster. It all felt almost like a waste of time. A lot of characters done dirty. A lot of things not resolved in a way that made sense. It felt ultimately rushed, especially with this last season. That's just not how you handle shit, okay? This is not how you handle an ultimate finale like this. You're doing too much without doing anything at all. You're trying to rush things out just because you got to end things off. You have to make it known that this is the finale. We're finally ending it after all these years, even though we're really not, because we have a spin-offs in the works, especially with the Vought Rising and then The Boys Mexico or whatever it's called. But you have all this shit going on, and now ultimately everyone's starting to turn on you and realizing what hacks you are in the industry. Even though I would argue you should have seen the signs a lot earlier and you should have clocked these people for who they are. But now that that is all said and done, I want to hear from you guys now. What did you think of The Boys season finale and just The Boys in general? Did you find it lackluster like I did? Did you happen to enjoy the finale, or were you kind of just meh on it? I'd like to hear from you guys and your overall thoughts. And did anyone like myself see the finale in cinemas? In the 40X format, of course. And another question I have for my viewers is, did you guys waste your time with the Gen V show? Did you watch both seasons? And then you ultimately fell for the banana in the tailpipe, knowing that this all went absolutely nowhere. All these characters built in these little spin-off shows, or the spin-off show being Gen V, you all just now realized that was all a waste of time. And I'm curious if anyone actually got suckered, or if they were smart, like yours truly, and never wasted time with that woke piece of shit show. And one last question I have for my viewers is, are you going to check out Vought Rising when it comes out? Are you going to watch that show? Or are you no longer going to waste any time with anything boys related? And while you're sounding off in the comments below, giving your overall opinions on my video and whether you agree or disagree with the points I've made, if you liked today's video, go ahead, give this video a thumbs up, and consider subscribing to the channel, because I make a lot of certified bangers just like this one. And while you're doing all the things that I've listed, go ahead, hit that hype feature to get this video promoted onto the algorithm, as well as sharing the video. That definitely helps out a lot. And if you're considering watching any of my other content, I'll leave some videos on the screen right here. It's going to recommend you something that YouTube thinks is best for you, and then what I think is best for you. But with all that being said, folks, I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will catch you all in the next one. Goodbye for now.